Welcome again on Igbo History TV. Subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed. Turn on the notification icon for more updates. Today we are going to talk about the Arab slave trade or Trans-Saharan slave trade. Before transatlantic slave trade, there was the Trans-Saharan slave trade, which had been going on for centuries. It was also known as the Arab slave trade. It had predated the arrival of the Portuguese at the shores of West Africa by at least 8 centuries. The Arab slave trade in Africa started in 7th century AD from the earliest days of the Arab conquest of Egypt. The Arab king Abdallah Ibrahim Saidi laid siege on the Nubian kingdom to the south. The Nubian kingdom was predominantly Christian. To sue for peace, the Nubians made a treaty with the Arabs, and part of the treaty was the provision of a steady supply of slaves for the Arabs. Over the next few centuries, the waves of Arab conquest led to a series of razzias, that is raids on communities south of the Sahara to feed the slave markets. Slave markets were established along caravan routes from Timbuktu to Massif, northwest to Marrakech in Morocco, and Cairo, Egypt. The rest would capture able-bodied black men and women and would march them on foot through the Sahara Desert in harsh and often inhuman conditions. The primary source of black slaves were the Ghana Empire, Mali Empire, the Hausa city-states, and Karen Bonu. One remarkable observation was the black boys were captured in raids by Berber and Arab slave raiders from North Africa and was often trained and enlisted in their armies, which they used to wage wars in Europe. Hence, the term Moor was used to refer to these armies, which was a mix of black and Arab Berber soldiers. Majority of these conscripts came from the Ghana Empire. The Arabs' armies perfected the art of slave trade. They believed they had the sole right to enslave the uncivilized unbelievers or infidels to the south. The first black slaves in Europe were brought by Arab merchants to Spain. The epoch of the Arab slave trade occurred in East Africa and has influenced the culture so much today that traces of Arab culture is still found in the populace, and the Swahili language was born out of such influence. The Somali and Omani sultanates established trading posts along the East African coast, from where they would conduct raids inland on the Bantu population, which they refer to as Zanj. A good percentage of the Somali population were actually descendants of some of the Bantu tribes that was captured. The East African slaves were sold in slave markets all over Arabia, from Mogadishu across the Red Sea to Muscat and even Mecca. Slaves were taken as far as India. One major trading post that made so much wealth from slave trade was Mombasa, Kenya. Another was Zanzibar, Tanzania. The Arab slave post in Zanzibar was so lucrative that the Omani royal family founded a kingdom in Zanzibar. Zanzibar had a booming slave market, and the slaves were mostly used to work the lucrative cloth and spice farms that Zanzibar was famous for. One unique feature of the Arab slave trade was that the African males taken were oftentimes castrated. It was a common practice to prevent them from reproducing or impregnating Arab women. The Caliph at Baghdad in the 10th century was said to have as much as 7,000 castrated men in his palace. The female slaves were often used as sex slaves by their masters and could often be sold or gifted when the masters were tired of them. It was common practice to offer a slave to your guests as part of hospitality. The Arab slave trade was not without its resistance. From 869 to 883 AD, there was a massive rebellion in the city of Basra in modern-day Iraq, known as the Zanj Rebellion, led by Ali Ibrahim Muhammad, a Bantu slave. The transatlantic slave trade went on for 200 years. The Arab slave trade has gone on for 17 centuries, even as the British put an end to the transatlantic slave trade. It was resisted by the Arabs. The British in 1873 forced the Sultan of Zanzibar, Said Bash to sign a treaty banning slave trade in all his territories. It wasn't until 1909, however, that it was enforced when slavery was banned in East Africa. Slavery continued in Mauritania and Sudan up till the 60s. Some of these descendants can still be found in small countries, in Baluchistan, some parts of India, Iraq, Morocco, and so on. Arab slavery had already begun in Africa more than 700 years before the European transatlantic slave trade. The slave trade began when the Arabs invaded North Africa for the first time in the 7th century AD. The first Arab entry into Africa was through Egypt. An Arab military general named Jara Ame Aben Alas invaded Egypt in December 639 AD. Ame had successfully conquered Egypt and went ahead and conquered other places such as Tunisia and western Libya. Once these areas has been completely conquered by the Arabs, they imposed tributes of 360 slaves in all regions they occupied and controlled. With this Islamic slave trade in Africa, North Africans were Islamized by their Arab slave masters.